Good afternoon, everybody. It
Good
is
afternoon.
Thursday,
Good after snowy room.
and we've got some great guests today. It's the Breakfast Club show. I've got Joey Gem on my left in his nice, slick black leather jacket,
Thank you.
and Bob Domato on my right in his great black. We're all dressed in black today.
I showered today.
Yeah.
This is for
Yeah,
the show.
we all showered.
And
For the
we
show,
have
shaved,
somebody
yeah.
that's going to call in, the very well dressed, handsome Ray Negron. So we're waiting for him. There he is.
There's Ray.
And I
Hey,
like
Ray.
this. Everybody wore black today, so we were in sync together. Hello, Ray. Do you know what today is?
Today is Thursday.
Today is Thursday, but it's also my filmmaker, Angelo Amato's birthday. And the new
Nice.
film that's coming out, I'm in, is called Maximilius is his name, and it's about, he's my son, he's in the special needs, and I'm his mother who's very worried about him. And Angelo Amato is the filmmaker, and it's also his birthday today. So happy birthday, Angelo.
Happy birthday.
And I'll be sending you a clip on, it's going to be a feature movie, and it's all about, what a parent goes through with a kid in the spectrum. And
Nice.
he's quite the actor. He's a teacher also in high school. So today's his birthday. I'm very happy that I got to see the clip, and we're going in the De Niro Festival in a few months.
Oh, great.
Wow.
I'm excited, very excited. So what's happening? When is the opening day?
Opening days in approximately the 28th of March.
Coming
and,
up.
The Yankees are going to come in with a very nice team this year. We've got good pitching. And we've got a couple of decent players to make up for Juan Soto. And I'm excited about this team.
Great, great. So, we're talking about 58 days till opening day. We're talking about you today, what's going on, your books. Bob has a lot of questions for you. Joey hasn't seen you in a while. So, guys, help me out here.
Hey, Ray. I play the guitar. I'd love to play the national anthem at Yankee Stadium. I'm going to hit you up.
Nice.
You never know. Ray can do it all.
Well,
Ray's the man.
Let me preface this a little bit with Ray. I got to know Ray over the last couple of years, and I am so honored to know this man. First of all, Ray does a lot of work for a lot of people.
Yes, he does.
He does a lot of work with kids. He is a tremendous community advocate.
Yes, he is.
And how did he do all of this? Because he is the bat boy. He is
The
the main bat
bat
boy
boy.
of the Yankees. And I'm telling you, I am so inspired by him. Every time I either read his story, he's on Instagram every day telling stories. He is on Instagram every day inspiring people. I can't say enough for this man. And that's why I came today, because I had to see Ray Negron today.
Now,
and
what about the book?
And the book and Bat Boy and his documentary. He'll talk more about the documentary. I'll leave that for him. But he is just a tremendous human being that constantly is helping folks. So that's it. That's my introduction, Ray.
Well, I know he has a big fan. He's called the Wizard of Oz. He's up there in heaven, right?
Well, he's there, all right. And you're talking about George Steinbrenner, who was one of the greats.
Yes.
And a true mentor if there ever was one. And if you look at my Instagram, as Bob said, this nice piece on George today, actually. Today I felt like it was a George day. And had I known that the great Bob Domato was going to be there, I would have definitely have been there. I would have skipped my doctor's appointment because I wouldn't have took any chances. And Bob is one of the great people that I've known, and he, in my documentary, he actually plays George Steinbrenner.
I know.
He does a hell of a job. He really does. He convinced me to no end. Whereas he brought me to tears in watching him and Carmine do a beautiful scene together.
Yes.
I love
So I'm
Carmine.
grateful for that.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So we'll have you back, but it's all over your Facebook because I copied you on everything. So,
Well, thank you.
so your friends
I
are watching,
appreciate it.
hopefully. So they're probably watching already.
I agree, and again, I'm sorry that I wasn't there because I would have rather have been there than do this whole
Doctor
whatever
routine.
whatever you call this computer thing. I still haven't caught up with the times.
Yeah, well, I'm not crazy.
Don't worry,
about it.
Ray. We feel your presence.
I feel
for
you.
sure.
We
We
feel
feel
you
your
for sure.
presence. We really do. And tell everyone, a little synopsis about your journey and where you are today. Uh-oh.
There you go, Ray. It's not gonna be good. So
So
listen.
let us talk.
Yeah. So listen, guys.
No dead space.
I believe in a lot of dreams too, but I met Ray the night that I was at Sal Valentinetti's concert many years ago. You know Sal.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, Sal the Voice. And we were at a party together with Steve Vaccaro and Ray and all the family, and I was lucky enough to get invited to the after party because my
He's
name
back.
is Valentina. And I squirmed my way in, and they got. And now we've been best friends, and he's been on my show. Love Sal, but that's the day I met Ray and met his wife out in seeing Bat Boy in where we did it for the Army, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was actually one of our great performances because it was seen around the world.
Yes.
Okay, they had that around the world, wherever they had the troops overseas, they all got to see Bat Boy, so it was unbelievable.
Yep. So we've been friends since, and I remember when I first met him in a bar somewhere here on Long Island as well. Steve had given me an award for my community work, and he was so nice, and I'm like, God, he's so easy to talk to. And then you meet his lovely wife, and she's so nice. And then now he's got this grandchild that I want to eat up.
Well, I just want to interject for a minute how I met Ray. And I met Ray because of my very dear friend, the late Pepe Cardona.
Oh,
And
Pepe, yeah.
I mentioned
That's
Pepe.
right.
I mentioned Pepe wherever I go. I have a big picture of Pepe on my desk at home.
Nice.
I first met Ray at a production of Bat Boy. It was at the comedy club, Ray.
right.
The night Dwight Gooden was there. And
Right.
Pepe and his son actually wrote a song for Bat Boy, and they were performing it that night.
Wow.
And Pepe invited me, and the place was packed. It was mobbed. And I'll never forget it. Pepe takes me over, and he said, "This is Ray Negron." And I said, "Who's Ray Negron? He goes, "No, he's the guy that wrote the play."
Yeah, well, the day I met you in the bar, I went in the bathroom. I called my daughter because she's a Yankee fan. I'm like, "Who's Ray Negron?" She goes,
Yes.
"What?"
Yes.
My daughter has a Yankee basement. Okay.
And then after that,
So then she told me who you were, and that's how
Yeah.
I knew who you were.
And the follow-up story was this: Ray was getting an award one night at one of the chapter networks dinners, and Steve Vaccaro at the time asked me to sing "My Way" to Ray, and I did that night. And Ray comes up to me afterwards. He goes, "I want you to play George Steinbrenner." I said, "What?" And I became George Steinbrenner. And Ray, you can continue the story.
And no, what's to say except that you're great, and you're a natural actor, and Mr. Steinbrenner loved to sing. He loved music like nobody's business. So
Wow.
you were just a natural in that situation.
I have a question for Ray, and I met Ray through Steve Vaccaro, who's done tremendous things for myself
Everybody.
and our foundation. Yeah, he's an amazing human being. So, Ray, you've been with the Yankees forever. And I guess the question I have for you is, who did you find to be, besides Steinbrenner, the most influential player over the years in your life? Someone that maybe gave you advice when you were younger, and something that you could pass on to the next generation? Was there a player that really was close to you, that gave you a moment that you cherish?
Well, let me put it to you this way. Understand that in my home there were 7 boys.
Yes.
And of the 7 boys, I'm the only one that's alive today. Of the 7 boys,
Wow.
I'm the only one that didn't go to prison. And it took every bit of all the players, Billy Martin, our great manager, Reggie, Thurman,
Yep.
Bucky Dent, Lou Piniella. It took all of them. And understand, the funny thing about that is, the fact that those guys had issues, like Reggie came from a broken home. Thurman came from a broken home. Bucky Dent came from a broken home. You know, and so we spoke the same language. And baseball essentially naturally saved them, and the game would save me. And George Steinbrenner, one day, I said to him, one of my brothers is having an issue. He's selling drugs. He's involved with the wrong people. And Mr. Steinbrenner said, bring him to work tomorrow. I'm giving him a job. And by the time I had gotten to East New York where he was hanging out, by the time I got there, he had been shot and killed.
Oh, boy.
jeez.
And you know, I always have to
Yes.
hold because I still get emotional.
Yes.
But it was a very hard thing. And the funny thing about that was that by the time I got back to Yankee Stadium and I had told the boss what had happened, he said, "Is there someone that you want to bring in so we could take care of?" And I brought in my friend Hector Pagan, Puerto Rican kid, issues, and that guy would go on because of the influence. He would go on to become one of the nation's greatest DEA agents.
Wow.
Wow.
Spent 33 years in the force. He brought in some of the biggest drug dealers in the world and all of that because of the mentors.
Yes. Right.
Thank you. That
You can ask any of these guys, like in Suffolk County, we have Earl Toulon as our sheriff. Okay? Former Yankee bat boy. And you can ask so many of these people, what's the greatest job you ever had in life? They all say the same thing, to be the bat boy.
That's unbelievable, but that's karma, because they were all surrounded by such great people that helped them guide them all the way.
Well, you know what strikes me about what Ray just said when he spoke about how George Steinbrenner said, you know, bring your brother, bring this gentleman, and, you know, who would you like me to help? Because he did the same. I actually ran into Dwight Gooden 3 weeks ago at a bank in Glen Cove, and it brought my attention back to what George did, the team did for Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden, when, you know, they were considered washed up.
Yes.
And the Yankee organization brought them in to help them, you know, clean up, and that was just an amazing story. And, you know, and I was sitting there with the banker, and it's like, oh, you know, Dwight went through his hard times and stuff. I said, how about all the great things that he did?
Exactly.
Let's, you know, people sometimes they focus on all
The bad stuff. They
the
only-
hard stuff that people went through,
unfortunately.
which is a lesson.
Yes.
However, you know, I remember as a kid, you know, putting up the K's at Shea Stadium at the time when Dwight Gooden was the, you know, strikeout doctor,
Right.
you know, Dr. K, you know. Talk about those things, you know, but it's all a story, and the Yankee organization is amazing because they helped so many people, you know. And Ray's right there. He's telling you exactly his own brother, his own family. You know, the George Steinbrenner and the Yankees were there for him and for him himself.
Absolutely,
You know,
yes.
for his history, I read about him, and I know a lot about Ray. It's beautiful, and it's true honor. You know, just knowing you, Ray, and I want to thank you for all the great things that you've done in your lifetime. And honestly, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for that. And, you know, in life, being good is not sexy.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But when you're bad, it's sexier to the common man.
Right.
But remember something, the Bible says 90% of the overall population doesn't go to heaven.
Right.
And that's sad to me. that's sad to me because essentially I believe in what it says, and I'm not overly religious, but I wholeheartedly believe in God and the words in the Bible, and I try to live life that way. And you know, the whole aspect of growing up, as you gentlemen and lady know, is we all have to deal with issues of self-esteem,
Yes.
and we have to deal with issues of being told that we're nobody,
Right.
and who are you?
Very true.
And forever, initially, I dealt with that a huge self-esteem issue. Like when I first got to the Yankees, it was like I didn't belong there. Why am I here? I don't belong here. You know, and that's because certain people would say that. But George Steinbrenner and Billy Martin, they they would literally beat it out of me like, get that out of your mind. You belong here as much as anybody. And the irony of all that, I finally grew into that, and I started to believe it. Now you're talking about Doc and Darryl. I brought Doc and Darryl to the Yankees. Okay.
That is a great.
That's a beautiful. I did not know that.
Okay. I went to George and I said, Darryl, in 1995, and you know you could talk to them about it, but listen, it's chronicled. In 1995, I went first, and I asked the boss to take a shot at Darryl because he's a friend, etc., etc. Steinbrenner had been a fan of Doc and Darryl, a fan.
Sure.
Okay, and so he signed Darryl in '95. Okay, and that year, that summer, Steinbrenner had me stay with Doc Gooden and take him to rehabilitation programs all around Tampa, St. Petersburg.
Wow.
Okay, because he was been suspended. So the boss
Right.
master plan was, after he gets off suspension, I got the picture I always wanted. And the funny thing about it was, a lot of people were telling Mr. Steinbrenner, "No, why are you doing this? You're crazy. You shouldn't do this. This guy's a loser," you know. And who's telling you to do this? And George Steinbrenner at one point said, "Ray Negron did." And he says, why are you listening to him? And he said, "Because he's the only person that I can really trust."
Beautiful.
That is
Okay.
great.
And he said that in front of me, okay? And these were important things. But the irony is that after he died, because he told me just before he died, he said, now you're going to have to be your strongest, because when I'm gone, people are going to try to bring you down, okay? Because you were a part of me."
Right.
And when he died, for the first 3 years, I had to deal with a lot of BS, man. I mean, to the point whereas I was to the point of wanting to die.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. But I dealt with what he told me to do, which was stay strong, stay strong. You know, he said, because you need the brand in order to do what you do. I mean, I could have left the Yankees a long time ago and made millions of dollars, millions. I was even offered a job by Donald Trump during his first presidency.
Oh, wow.
Okay, to be the community advisor at the White House. Okay, but I knew that once I left, I mean, hey, the president's only there for 4 years.
Right.
Okay, and then they bring in their own administration.
Absolutely. Any job
Right.
does that.
Okay, so once if I left, and then Trump is out of office, now I'm out of a job because you know the Yankees weren't going to bring me back.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I couldn't take the shot because too many people depend on what I do in order to be able to help them.
So what you did was what my father always used to tell me to do. You stand. When everything, goes wrong and something isn't just right, you stand. So you stood, and you're still standing.
I aim to be the last man standing. Okay, because I have 52 years there, and no one
That's
there has
right.
been there that long, not even close.
I like that.
And the aspect of it is, and that's why I've been urging for weeks for everybody to get their physicals,
Yes.
Okay, I mean, get finger effed, get anything and everything that you
Finger
that has to be done to find out that you are healthy so that you can be here for as long as possible to do what we to deal with God's master plan.
Yes.
Right.
And
the
there
master
is
plan.
one
And
for
that-
all of us, right?
That is true.
That's right.
Ray's messages on Instagram have been telling people to go for your checkups, get help. You know, I've been reading those.
What
yes.
is the Instagram name? Because people that are watching can.
Ray Negron Yanks.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Ray
Okay.
Negron Yanks.
Ray, can you talk a little bit about? I know your relationship with George Steinbrenner was so deep, and talk just a little bit about him really putting you in the direction of helping people. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Hey, listen. The bottom line was that he finds me doing graffiti one day outside Yankee Stadium. He has me locked up. A guy said to him, one of his security guys says to him, that's where he belongs. There's nothing that you can do for these people.
Mm.
When the guy said that, something went off in the boss's mind. And he said, give me the kid. Next thing you know, I didn't know where they were dragging me to, but they dragged me to this room. It ended up being the Yankees locker room.
Wow.
He told the equipment manager, give him a uniform. He's got damages he's going to work off. What a punishment. That night I was a bat boy for the New York Yankees. Okay?
Wow.
That's some story.
And then after that, it was the aspect of this guy took such an interest. Like he wanted to know that I was doing good in school, that I was going to school, period. You know, I mean, he literally went to the point of calling my mother. That was the only time they ever met, and it was not a pretty sight, because it was the aspect of the boss telling my mother that I was screwed up, that I was out there doing what, and my mother, being a mother, she says, not my son.
Right.
Okay, and you know what? And the bottom line is, through the screaming back and forth, because my mother was a very tough lady. Through the screaming back and forth, I ended up with a job. The boss told me, you be here tomorrow morning, regardless of what your mother says. And I was there the next morning, and days after that, and he literally paid me out of pocket because the season had already started.
Wow.
So he was paying me out of pocket. And after that, like at one time, I was coming out of the ballpark late, and he was leaving, and he says, you working late tonight, huh? And I said, yeah. And he says, get in, we're gonna drive you home. He had a driver. He said, we're gonna drive you home. And they took me, I was staying in Westchester Avenue in the Bronx at that time. And as we were approaching my house, like, he didn't know that we were getting there, and he goes, Jesus Christ, imagine to have to live like this?
Wow.
Oh, gee.
Wow.
And I said, boss, I do live like this.
Yes.
And that, all of a sudden, anyway, all of a sudden he got very sad.
Oh, wow.
And like at that point he said to me, whenever you want to stay at the ballpark, stay at the park.
Wow.
Because it was tough. And after that, he couldn't do enough. He couldn't do enough. And he hired so many of the kids.
Mm.
So many.
Well, you've got such a history. It's unbelievable.
This is what we wanted to hear, Ray. This particular story.
You know, Ray, it's such a beautiful thing because, you know, growing up, everybody thought that George, and I'm sure in business he was a hard ass when he had to be, but what you're telling us really shows the humanity side of such a great man, that with such success. And and I remember growing up, because very astute, how people were just jealous of him and angry of him and said nasty things about him, and the turbulence with Billy Martin, all these things. You would never think that George Steinbrenner was the kind of guy that would go into a community and help the children, help you. and make your life what it is today, and you're giving back. And I think today's an inspiration for me.
Oh, it's for everybody,
And
you know.
you personally, I think Ray just touched me in a way that not many people
Yes.
have in the past so many years.
Yes,
And
he's
I lost
teaching
my
kids.
son in 2017. To a distracted driver. He was 2.5 years old, and and people. I try to help so many people. And people like, why aren't you angry? Why aren't you, harder on people? You lost your son. You have the right, and I have the right. My son didn't lose his life for me to be a jerk.
Right.
My son at 2.5 was taken from this earth for me to learn a lesson, for me to be a better person, for me to be a stronger person, for me to help those people that are going through a hard time and to understand their pain. And the way you're expressing what you went through and losing your brother and the things that George did for you has really enlightened me today, has made me a different person and a better person.
Well, plus,
And that's because of what Ray just
but
said.
look
And
what
I thank
you've
you
done.
for that, sir. I
Look
thank
what
you so
you've
much.
done.
Well,
With
I'm
Rocco's
just
room,
starting. I'm just,
hospital.
you
I
know-
mean, he's got this beautiful room in his son's name. In what is it, Northwell or?
That we have the first room that we built was in Children's Specialized Hospital in New
Right.
Jersey, and it's a room for parents that are losing a child or their child is and they could go in there and
And
conduct
be peaceful,
themselves,
right?
and talk to doctors and things like that. But regardless, what I want, Ray lost his brother, and the thing is, even with my son Rocco, what I realized, and maybe Ray can, because he's been through something so personal. People really don't care. Okay, right, Ray? People don't care. And most people, I mean,
What are we watching, a Bronx Tale?
yeah, right. Yeah. Like my son passed, and people are sad. It's a sad story.
Absolutely, yes.
But that's not what the focus is, because people,
Go
people
on with
forget.
their lives.
People
They go
forget.
on, yes.
I don't forget. He didn't forget that he lost his brother. He got choked up just talking about that moment like it was yesterday. However, what we do in their memory
It's important,
is what's important.
right?
So his brother's demise was a shock for Ray and his family, but it made George Steinbrenner do great things for other children.
Exactly.
And so losing Rocco has made us do great things
for
And
other
change
kids.
your
for
life a
other
bit more,
families
right?
and other children, which so he lives by not his loss. He lives by the memory of the great things that we do as people, what his parents are doing. And again, I commend you so much, Ray, because I know many things about you, through Steve and what you read and hear, but just hearing it from you, I've never had the opportunity to really hear it from you. And this is great. This is a great show, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes.
I mean, what you
We
did,
tried.
this is awesome.
But also there's
Thank
the
you.
positive side of like what you just said. What
Exactly.
we're doing in his honor. I lost my sister. She was only 49
Right.
to breast cancer, and we have a charity called Ria's Angels, because she was our angel.
Yes.
But the first year we didn't speak, the whole family, for a year. Not because we didn't want to, we couldn't.
Right.
But now we have these events, we help people, and we meet such interesting people along the way. And
Yes.
my book, From Fire to Freedom, is dedicated to my sister, because she was one of the people that helped us, that we couldn't get jobs because we were too smart and too old.
Right.
And she's in the book. And, so that's life. And I'm sure, Bob, you can relate to
we
this.
have. I can relate to everything that's being said, and that's why I asked Ray that question, because I do know what I practically know what the answer was going to be. But when he tells it, each time he tells the story, I get more inspired,
Yep.
much more
I
inspired.
see that.
And I have to tell you, Ray goes to schools. He speaks with kids. One day, my daughter works for the New York City school system, and she called me up one day and she says, "Do you think Ray Negron would come to my school?" And I said, "He'll be there." I didn't even have to. I didn't even have to
ask
finish the sentence. He was there, and it was just another inspiring day to be with him. So they're going to have you back, by the way, Ray. That principal loved you
Well, thank you.
at my
No,
daughter's
so,
school.
Listen, let me put it to you this way. There was a little boy. There was a little boy who was dealing with cancer, right? And he comes up to me and he says, "Mr. Negron, do you think that if I do one good thing a day,
Uh,
God is going to let me go to heaven?"
mm,
And naturally I said, "Of course he will." And just before he died, that little boy said to me, I think I've done everything I was supposed to. And the next day he died.
Wow.
And because of that, if I don't do, it could be the smallest thing,
mhm.
but if I feel that I didn't do one good thing that day, the rest, my night is shot, and I don't sleep.
But you know what today is, Ray? Today, National Day, is Pay a Compliment Day. Every day, anyone you see today, pay them a compliment. Nothing cheers a person up more than hearing someone say something nice about you.
This blouse looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. But really, today is that day.
And thank you, Valentina, for bringing
That-
us all together.
that-
Yes.
That's nice. Okay, that's nice. But I'm not gonna. There's too many people there. I'm not gonna be complimenting everybody.
No, well, you just have to speak.
But I'm gonna do. But I am gonna make an effort to at least done something good. But if the whole world, think about that. Think about if the whole world. Forget about the compliments. I don't care about compliments. I don't want to.
Well, ladies like compliments. What can I
The
tell
only
you?
compliment I want is from God to say, "Hey, you're coming with me."
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
On the
Okay,
Express.
that's it. I don't need compliments. Only thing I need to know is that did I do the right thing today? Because every day is a blessing.
It is. It is.
People are falling. People are dying left and right every single day.
Overnight. You go to
Okay.
3 funerals in a month.
I'm going around after I leave here.
Hey, I don't want to waste a day. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to waste a day. I want to be able to do
Something.
and do. And let me. And you know, here's a funny thing. The boss always used to say to me, like initially in my life, when I went to the Yankee world, that world was basically only white. All right.
Yes.
At that time, talking 1973. So I was like. I remember one day I said, I had an issue with somebody, that same guy. He hated me with a passion, and whenever the boss wasn't around, he tried to mess with me. He always wanted to see me quit. And one day there was an issue, something really bad. What had happened was, I'll tell you what happened. I was out in the outfield shagging fly balls. I was a pretty good baseball player. Remember, I got drafted in the second round by the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Wow.
Okay? I played professional baseball. But before that point, I was out in the outfield and I was having the time of my life. I mean, every day that I was with the Yankees as a bat boy, I loved it. And one day the boss was out of town, and this guy literally walked on the field. He was the head of security, let me put it to you that way, for the whole Yankee Stadium. He walks on the field, went out to right field where I was, grabbed me by the arm. He says, "Don't make a scene. Just walk with me. Do not make a scene. It'll be worse for you."
Oh my gosh.
So he walks me off the field. He takes me to the visitors' locker room, where all the shoes were on the floor in a corner, and he says, "Shine the shoes. Your people are very good at that."
Oh my God.
Ugh.
And so I'm crying and shining the shoes, okay? Because I wasn't gonna quit. So I was shy, and as I'm shining the shoes, Elston Howard walked in. I don't know if you remember the name Elston
Oh
Howard.
yeah.
Yep.
But he was a great Yankee. He was the first black Yankee. And he walks in there screaming at the guy, and he basically roughed up the guy a little bit, and then he said, "Let's go, Ray." And he took me back to the Yankee locker room. And so when the boss came back, Elston had told the boss what happened. And the boss asked me, why do you think this is happening to you? And I explained, I said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, I wish I was white so this wouldn't happen to me.
Wow.
And the boss got very upset with me, very upset. And then he actually told Billy Martin what I had said, and Billy almost slapped me in the face. And so what happened was that the boss explained to me that in life, it isn't all about the aspect of people being prejudiced. Sometimes people are jealous, and that's
Right.
worse.
Very true.
He said, that's worse. And I said, well, how could that be worse? And he says, because your own family members could be jealous.
Right.
Your best friend could be jealous.
That is very true.
Anybody could be jealous. And your whole life, you may not deal with prejudice, but you're always going to deal with jealousy.
Right.
And he was so right, because fast forward 50 years, this happened to me during the World Series. I have my dear friend, who's like a brother, Chas Palminteri, at the game. He was in a suite that our team president put him in. However, there were so many people in there was no seats. So I looked in the next suite over, and I saw empty seats. So I went to the owner of that suite and I said, would you be okay if Chas Palminteri sat in here with you guys? And naturally he said, oh, hell yeah, Chas, a Bronx Tale? Are you kidding? Yes. So I brought Chas over there. And when I was doing that, this security person who happened to be black, and she says, hey, who said that guy, meaning Chas, who said that guy could sit in there? And the person that was in the suite said, Ray Negron did. And the lady goes, he's nobody. What are you listening to him?
Oh, boy.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And I took a deep breath, and as I was taking the breath, the boss's face was right there and saying to me, remember what I said.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what I said. Which at that point, I was able to control myself and smile.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes, I
and
do.
smile.
Mhm.
Because the Ray that came from the Bronx would have slapped the shit out of that
Yeah.
person.
And gotten
Right.
gotten in
Right.
some trouble.
Right.
They would have
exactly.
taken your arm and thrown you against
Exactly,
the wall
but
or something.
that's not me anymore.
Which is great. Look at you now.
You know?
Well,
So,
we're
no,
very
no,
happy to know you, and
No, it's just that I learned. It's just not who I am anymore, and this is what I try to teach young people.
well,
Right.
I get
This
that.
is why that's important to me. You know.
Well, the
it's
community
aspect-
service is so good for the kids. Just yesterday, I went into a brand new establishment. Joe Simonera, who is a filmmaker, just opened a brand new place in Lynbrook called The Crave. And he makes movies. But he made this new place. I went to meet him. We're going to have him on the show. And there were 7 kids, high school seniors, sitting playing cards. So I went over to them because this is what I do. I said, you guys, where you from? They said, Lynbrook High School. I said, do you do any community service? They said, well, not really. So I gave them my card. I said, you want to be on my show? Go out there and do something really great and call me up. Really, really, really? Do you do scholarships too? I said, no, but I'll help you.
Right.
You know, you have to do things to get there.
Right.
And they all gave me a big hug, and I'm hoping I hear from them one day. Because that's what doesn't happen out there, even parents. I love the parents, but guess what? These kids are just not used to stepping up to the
Serving.
plate.
Right. Serving. Right.
So I love what you did, and I do it. It's my religion. I don't go to church. My religion is be out there.
Well, you know, and you can't blame.
The
Every
parents.
time there are issues with young people, I don't blame the kids.
Yeah.
I don't blame the kids.
Yeah.
I blame the parents.
You're right. I have to say
Okay.
you're right.
And it is what it is. But I blame you. Hey, look at what happened the other day with Michael Jordan's son.
Yes.
Okay? Multi-billionaire, not millionaire, billionaire, So in essence, the kid has materially had everything that he could ever want. Okay, he was driving a Lamborghini.
Yeah, when he got out of jail,
Okay.
he got into a
All right.
Lamborghini.
He was driving a Lamborghini, cocaine in the car, etc., etc., etc. No, I'm not gonna blame the. I'm not gonna. I blame the parents because I'm a parent of four. Okay, I'm a parent of four. I didn't make a lot of money in my life. Very little, to be honest with you. I'm embarrassed to tell you what I make with the Yankees. Okay, but yet I have four, and I say with pride, incredible, incredible kids. Okay, two of them are Suffolk County police officers. Okay, one's a detective and the other one's going to be a lieutenant next year. Okay, so and then the other one was a former Golden Gloves champion, New York State champion boxer, who's done wonderful with UPS. He's high official there, and my daughter is incredible and has given me the greatest grandchild that anybody could ever ask
The Prince.
for.
The pride and joy.
The Prince.
The Prince.
Yeah.
The Prince.
And in essence, it's because if you give the time that your kids need,
Right.
but more importantly, show them love.
Yes.
Show them love.
Very important. Yeah.
Okay, my son was driving. In my house, we have a rule. Number one, when you come into the house, I get a kiss. When
Right.
you leave the house, I get a kiss.
I love it.
Okay, and we always tell each other, "I love you." Period.
That's right.
Period. I
That's
don't
great.
give-
That's a
I
great.
don't give a crap how strong you think you are. Like I told my kids, I don't care how many guns you have in your trunk and all that stuff because you're big time police officers and all that. I am still dad. I am still dad. One day my son was driving off. He was driving off, and I ran after him. And he stops at the light and he says, "Dad, have you gone mad?" I said, "Yeah, I've gone real mad because number one, you just left the house and I didn't get a kiss. Are you kidding me? No. I'm going to stand here in this corner until I get my kiss."
Absolutely. You know what we do in our family?
Right.
See this? Ray? You do this. You got to plant one right here.
I
Do you
take
do that,
very
Joey?
seriously.
You know what?
So may I ask Ray one more
Yeah,
question?
sure, absolutely.
So Ray, Joey Gem over here is a musical genius. He truly is.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I really applaud him all the time. I'm an entertainer, as you know. Can you talk just briefly a little bit about the influence and meeting? I know you're very good friends with Frankie Valli, and your meeting with Frank Sinatra. Can you just tell that story briefly?
Woo!
Woo.
Well,
That's a long story.
you know what had happened with Mr. Sinatra is that time I was telling you the story about when I said that I wish I was white.
Yes.
Mr. Steinbrenner told Billy Martin that Billy was so upset with me that he the next night he took me to a restaurant in the city called Patsy's Italian Family
Yeah,
Restaurant.
Patsy's.
That's a great
50
place.
On 56 on Broadway.
Yeah.
Not the pizza places, guys.
No,
not
right.
the pizza places.
Right.
Okay? And there, he introduced me to Mr. Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. And Billy embarrassed me by telling Mr. Sinatra what I said. And Mr. Sinatra gave me this look like a looks could kill. And then he turned to Sammy Davis Jr. and he said, do you know that I went through the same thing with Sammy back in '46? And he told me the story about how Sammy had been embarrassed, insulted, and humiliated because he was black and not allowed to stay in the same hotel as Mr. Sinatra when he was doing Vegas. And Mr. Sinatra had to tell the hotel people that Sammy can't stay here. I'm not performing here. And Mr. Sinatra took great stands for a lot of different issues like that. And I actually had dinner with Mr. Sinatra 3 times.
Oh, look at you.
And each time it was like going to meet God.
Yeah,
You know
I
what
could
mean?
relate to that. Yeah.
Because he was all that, man. He was all that and more. And I was just recently with Tina Sinatra, and we were talking about that, and you know, I'm very blessed.
Too
Yes.
many, a lot of good memories that are
Very
sad but
nice.
good, right?
And Ray, you saw our friend Frankie Valli finally got his due. He got the Lifetime
Yes.
Achievement Award
Yeah.
the other
Which
night.
was great.
That was great.
Yes.
Frankie Valli, I met in 1977 at Madison Square Garden. It was the first concert I had ever gone to, and I went there with another bad boy. And because at the time he had Swearing to God and My Eyes Adore You, and those were songs that all the Puerto Ricans love that, you know what I'm saying? They love, everybody loves Swearing to God, you know? So we went to the Garden, it was 19,000 plus, and Frankie was the man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so after the show, I said to my friend, I gotta meet him, I gotta meet him. And he said, you'll never get back there. I said, let's go. And I went and I saw security by the dressing room door, and I said, could you, I just said, I was very simple. I said, could you tell Mr. Valley that the Yankee bad boy would like to meet him? That's all I said. That's all I said.
And it happened.
And the guy went in, and then he comes back out and he says, Mr. Valley will see you now.
Yeah.
Love that.
And me and Hector, we walk in, and he was eating pasta, and I'll never forget it. It was that seafood pasta. It was, and he was just eating. He says, "Hey, how you guys doing?" You know, he thought that I was a player. Okay, he thought I was a player, and so I didn't lie. I said, "No, I said I just pick up the bats," and he started laughing. You got a pair of big ones. I like you. You know.
Yeah, that goes a long way.
And so we literally talked for an hour or so, and then he gave me his telephone number, and he says, whenever I'm here, I want you to call me. And I never paid for a ticket. When he went to Broadway,
Wow.
we became friends. When he went to Broadway one year, I respect to no end. Like, he's in Broadway now, and he's gonna have his family and his friends. So I said, I'm not asking him for tickets. So then I paid for tickets, and then I saw him after the show, and then he goes, hey, where did you get the tickets? I said, I brought them. And he goes, hey, you don't pay. Do you understand me? No, you don't pay. I said, Frankie, I didn't want to bother you with it. No, you don't pay. And that was, he's just been, always was like an uncle. He acted like an uncle. If I didn't go to the show but my kids went, he treated them like gold. You know, that's just
terrific.
That's Frankie Valli. That's the man that I've known.
Well,
And,
these are stories we never would have known without you telling us them.
hey, 91 years old, just got that's his first Grammy.
Right.
Wow.
Could you imagine? He never won a Grammy.
Jeez, that is something.
And yet he should have, but look at the competition. He
Yeah.
was always, okay,
Yeah.
the Beatles,
Yeah.
okay, Beach Boys. I mean, he went after some heavy duty competition always, but he still should have won.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to, you tell everybody what you're doing now.
Well,
He doesn't want to tell. He doesn't want to take any
I'm
limelight.
I'm enthralled.
He's-
But Joey has great stories.
He does.
I do, but I want to ask. I'm just really, Ray. I've become a fan in an interesting way of yours, right now. I want to ask Ray this question because if someone asked me this question, I wouldn't know what to answer. You've done so many great things. You've been around so many great people. Nothing too personal, but I would like to know, do you have any, I guess, within your life with the Yankee organization, do you have any regrets? Is there something that you would like to do different if you could take one thing you've done back? I know it's a hard question, and if you can't answer it, I don't blame you.
No, let me put it, regrets.
Or just one thing.
Regrets. I've had a few. But
Yeah, smart, yeah. Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that.
Okay, but regrets. You know what? I regret. I regret not spending more time with Dermot Munson when I could have,
Wow.
because he was a big brother. He was a big brother.
Wow.
And we used to have the deepest conversation. When I would be driving him to the airport, it was always the aspect of our fathers, and that was like me. I think I had a father who gave me up for adoption, man, and Dermot's father gave up on him and never complimented him, made him feel like garbage, and these were the things that really hurt us, and so we always talked about that. We talked about the family, and he's the man. Hey, the last time I saw him, he said, like I said to him, "Why do you have to go home?" Meaning fly. And he said, when you become a dad, you're gonna understand. And I gotta get home. I gotta fly home just so I can get there in time to tuck the kids to bed. He said, there's no bigger thrill in the world. And as he started to walk away, he stopped, and then he came back at me and he said, "Promise me that you'll always be a good dad. You hear me? Promise me that, because that's the only way that they're gonna be good kids." And that was the last time I saw him.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful
Beautiful and
story.
sad at the same time, but beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing this for us. We do have a few announcements. Bobby, can we just show a few of those slides? We have a very big event coming up. Bob Domato is singing at Monroe's, a great restaurant. It's on Valentine's Day, and it's February 14th. Call the restaurant. Tell them that the show sent you, and you love Bob Domato. We also have a big show next week here. It's Valentine's Day. We have two couples that we picked, nomination, and one used to live here, very popular, who had to move because he had MS and he had to go where it was cheaper to live. But he knows everyone on Long Island. We found him, and his wife are getting special treated here on the show on Thursday. And Michelle Astor and her significant husband will be two couples. Great day here next week, Thursday. If anybody wants to stop by, bring some cookies, have some fun. Bob is singing. Love is in the air to them. We have a lot of fun. We're getting pizza from Mario down the block. And the thing about what I do here is kindness never goes out of style. And Joey has been very kind to me, also helping me with some things. And now you're working with that music organization.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You don't want to talk about it, but you did a great thing.
Thank you so much.
He
I mean, the
expanded-
next time.
Look at this. He expanded this whole company.
Thank you.
All right?
Yeah.
And we're proud of you, too. Look at all that you do. And the rooms at the hospital. And, well, Bob Domato, forget it. I call him. He's here in 3 minutes. Do you know how long I know this man? Since I was 18.
Wow.
But I hadn't seen him again since I started writing my book. And I put the book in Floral Park, where we both grew up, and he called me up. That was 6 years ago.
That's right, 6 years.
And he's always pushing me and always pushing him.
Right.
In a good way.
I just want to say one thing. So the last couple of years, I've been pushing this concept of universal love.
Yes.
And it's something what Ray was just going back with your family, saying I love you, and
Yes.
and you don't have to feel funny to be a man and a man to say
That's
I love
right.
you, So how do I get around that? I say universal love. I wish you universal love.
Right.
And I started living that.
I love it.
And I'm like Ray
Joey,
said,
I love it.
Like the old, if the guy from the Bronx would have gotten mad and stuff that someone, makes you angry, I say, you know what? Universal love to you, my brother, my sister. May God give you everything that you need. And people's reaction is very interesting. And I started living my life that way. Just by offering universal love to everyone, whether they make you mad or not, or regardless. And then I was so happy to hear that the theme of the Super Bowl this year is love. Is love. So both teams at the end of their end zone, I think the Kansas City Chiefs have love will be instead of fighting with each other, being angry or being antagonistic when you get a touchdown, it's about showing love to your fellow teammate or your competitor. And I thought that was the most amazing thing. It doesn't get enough press. I just happened to catch it, but it's great that we can change the world by showing love. And universal love is something
Universal
that
love.
you can show everyone and not feel funny about it.
And you know what? That's what's going to be going at the Super Bowl. Everybody's going to be kissing,
In
hugging,
love.
and making
Right.
out. So guess what? It's going to be a great Super Bowl Sunday. Have a great time.
Thank you.
Watch my show. Ray, share it to all your friends.
Thank you, Ray.
Ray, thank you.
And it is going to be a wrap any second. You did a great job. We love you. But I have to see you face to face because I had a present for you. It's right here. And it's for your desk in your new office there.
It's a wrap.
Nice.
That's it, guys.
Nice.
It's going to be a wrap.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Ray, thank you so much for
Thank
the
you guys.
enlightenment.
Thank you guys.
Your
I'll talk to
words.
you, Ray.
Thank
We'll
you.
be in touch.
Guys.